the answer.
Dan and Amy, Joe Biden says Trump is a liar, lies repeatedly, not very smart. When he calls Trump a liar on stage tomorrow night, I assume that moment will happen. Boy, does Trump have a ready-made arsenal to deploy if he so chooses. And here's another one. I got started out of a HBCU, historically black college university. Delaware State. Now, I don't want to hear anything negative about Delaware State.
Yeah, 'cause they're my folks.
He said that during a October 2019 town hall.
And what's the truth, Dan? Because, you can always look up those college transcripts.
Or you can just have a spokesman for the college comment and a spokesman for Delaware State saying he was never a student at the school. Maybe Corn Pop can vouch for him.
Oh, my God. Sugar pop, top pop, corn pop.
And by the way, this has nothing to do with supposed mental decline, because Joe Biden has been a fabulist, to be generous, for his entire life, just as he's been a political hack his entire life. The plagiarism of Neil Kinnock. He misstated his academic record from the colleges he actually did go to, both undergrad and law school, in terms of what kind of student he was. Wildly misstated them. Not accidental, not a misrecollection.
No.
Wild misstatements.
I mean, he gave the commencement speech there in 2013, but that doesn't mean he went to school there.
He also continues to say that his first wife was killed by a drunk driver, and that's not true. And why would you need to embellish a tragedy like that? That is sick.
It was a truck driver. And then yesterday, when he was on MSNBC.
That's why I made it a priority my entire career to work closely with you. From the time I got to the Senate 180 years ago, as well as my tenure as vice president.
Well, that's just a joke. I mean, that's apples and oranges. This is purposeful deceit. And he should be held to account for it, especially since this is the line of the left to go after the things that Trump is allegedly lying about. I hope there's that moment where Trump can shove it right back down his throat. I really do. Quickly, Andrew in Twinsburg, Ohio. You're in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, the last time the New York Times endorsed a Republican president, was 1956, Dwight D. Eisenhower's reelection year. And these Democrat lies about the rich paying their fair share. The top 1% pay more income tax than the bottom 90%. And 5 of the 10 richest counties and 9 of the 20 richest counties are in the Washington, D.C. metro area. How do those counties become rich? By taking money from the rich. It's not rocket science.
Thanks for the call, Andrew. Appreciate it. Speaking of the New York Times, this story about Trump's taxes.
Yeah.
He responded at his briefing on Friday to the story.
It's fake news. It's totally fake news. Made up, fake. We went through the same stories. You could have asked me the same questions 4 years ago. I had to litigate this and talk about it. Totally fake news. No, actually, I paid tax. And you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time. The IRS does not treat me well. They treat me like the Tea Party, like they treated the Tea Party.
This is the New York Times reporting Trump paid $750 in federal income taxes the year he won the presidency, as well as his first year in the White House. Our colleague Hugh Hewitt making the point, in a category of detail most likely to not appear in cable coverage of New York Times story, from 2005 to 2007, Trump paid a total of $70 million in income taxes.
Oh, they just bypassed that information.
Yeah, and the tax bills of real estate developers, and when it comes to losses they take on property and so on and so forth, complicated matters. I don't know that this really is much of anything except trying to run interference, perhaps, in the Hunter Biden story last week, or the continued evidence that there was a coup attempt before Trump took office, after he had won election, and then well into his first term of office, both at FBI and CIA, which we were talking about with Jim Carafano, and want to continue that conversation with Brian Morgenstern, Special Assistant to the President, Deputy Press Secretary and Deputy Director of Communications. Brian, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So the New York Times story first. I mean, obviously the president said fake news, and you'll see that it's fake news when the time comes for me to be able to release my returns, or at least partial, at least the top lines of those returns. It doesn't seem to me this story is going to have much staying power. How concerned are you at the White House about it?
Oh, not much at all, frankly. Both the president and his attorney came out and said it's fake, that he's paid millions of dollars in taxes. They refused to show his lawyers the documents they were basing their reporting on, claiming they're protecting sources. But if you can't dispute the veracity of them, how are you supposed to defend yourself? So, and the Biden campaign had ads up almost immediately after this came out. I mean, this was clearly a coordinated political smear. It also came out on almost the exact same date as the New York Times published basically the same story in 2016. So it's just downright uncreative. I mean, there's just a few other points. I mean, number one, the president donates his salary to the government. During his time in office, we're looking at $1.5 million right there. So it's debunked. And just a fundamental question I have for every American. I mean, why would you pay more taxes than you owe? The president wants everybody to have lower taxes. That's why he cut taxes with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So he is unashamed about that. I mean, they tried this. It didn't work. So, I think I'll just leave it at that.
Well, their point of contention is that, he's such a successful businessman, but he took losses. Well, yeah, there's always going to be losses when you have golf courses and hotels, and especially during a pandemic.
Yeah, and something called depreciation is something that I think a lot of Americans might not be super familiar with, but it's something that's very common in the real estate industry. But, the bottom line is you cited it in 05-07. He paid $70 million in taxes. His attorney to the New York Times stated this is not correct. He paid billions of dollars in taxes. They wouldn't report that. So, that combined with the timing and how it's the same timing as it was last time and how the Dems had ads up almost immediately, that's how you know this was just a coordinated political smear.
I wanted to get a reaction to these reports out at the end of last week. Paul Sperry, Real Clear Investigations on John Brennan cooking the intel estimate on Russian interference in the election prior to Trump receiving a briefing as the president-elect. And then, obviously, everything at FBI, the Steele dossier subsource being the subject of an FBI counterintelligence investigation for being a Russian agent himself. I mean, at FBI, at CIA, it seems like everybody was colluding with the Russians except President Trump, candidate Trump, and then President Trump, the way this is playing out. It's just the most remarkable thing. And yet Maria Bartiromo was reporting yesterday, according to her sources, she does not believe there'll be a Durham report / any indictments prior to the election. I mean, how are you guys treating this new information and the waiting game for the Durham investigation to be complete?
Well, it's remarkable, frankly, that as you state, the Russians and everyone except President Trump seem to be colluding, and nobody talks about how China wants Biden to win. Nobody talks about how Iran just wants utter chaos, and they prefer that President Trump lose as well. But it's all about Russia, 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 and then we get some of the facts out, and we realize that it was this shady dossier based on some Russian agent, and that it was paid for by the Democrats, not the president. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, I mean, people with Trump derangement syndrome have been acting out of pure desperation for many years, and it's finally coming to light. And thank God the American people can finally understand just how bad it has been, just how bad the president has been treated. With respect to any, potential criminal investigation or anything like that, we stay out of that here at the White House. The president has said, I guess I could get involved, but I won't. It's best that the career prosecutors handle these things. We're hopeful that justice will prevail and that the American people will have even more information about these bad acts that have been going on.
He hasn't been the biggest fan of Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, in tweets recently when Wray was testifying on the Hill. Would you say that I know everybody's under review in a second term, but maybe Christopher Wray's tenure at the FBI is near the top of that review?
Well, I think there's been some frustration, I think, that the president has shown and the chief of staff has shown as well. But we have no personnel announcements to make. And, of course,
Dan wants him fired. Yeah.
You sure? You're not going to make any? Oh, yeah. No, okay. All right, let's talk Amy Coney Barrett, and how are you all girding your loins for the confirmation battle to come?
I mean, what an outstanding choice. A person with an absolutely sterling academic record, an impeccable professional record, a constitutionalist, a working mother from the heartland of our country, just a terrific symbol for women, for mothers, for really everyone in our country to show that you can be a devoted person of faith. You can be devoted to your family. You can also be an outstanding scholar and attorney. And so we're very excited about her nomination, and we're pleased to see the Senate moving expeditiously, and we're hopeful that any of these kind of ugly attacks that we've seen from the left starting to come out are just going to be rejected, because it's really disgusting to attack someone that is putting forth, taking time away from her family, from her busy schedule to serve our country. She doesn't have to do this. It is, she's honored to do it, but she doesn't have to, and we're grateful for her service.
Yeah, I mean that, Boston University professor who called her a white colonizer, saying that she's using her 2 adopted Haitian children as props. I think he should get fired from his position immediately, but this is just going to continue until she's confirmed.
What an outrageous comment. I mean, her children were malnourished. They were in a bad spot. I mean, one of her daughters, they said that she would maybe never even walk again. The Barretts adopted these children, raised them with care and compassion. That daughter is now a track star. They said she was never going to walk again. I mean, they're a beautiful family, filled with love and faith. And so these sorts of attacks, I think, are actually going to cut the other way. It's going to turn the American people off from these types of people who are lobbying such ugly insults at the Barrett family.
Was there any conversation with McConnell and Senate Republicans about not doing a confirmation hearing? There's no requirement to do it, and just going straight to a vote rather than the process?
Well, I know it was floated, in the media, and I can't speak for Senator McConnell or Senator Graham and what process they've been considering, but they made it clear that they would like to have a public hearing. They want a thorough vetting. They want to show the American people that while this process is moving rapidly, it will be thorough and it will be fair, and that includes having a hearing. So.
Yeah.
The Senate's got a job to do. The White House has done its job in nominating a justice, and now it'll be up to the Senate to consider her.
Yeah. But it's so stupid. The Senate, they're now saying that they may boycott the Supreme Court confirmation hearings, and they refuse to meet with Amy Coney Barrett, which other senators met with, Merrick Garland back in the day.
Yeah. That's how you know that President Trump has made an impeccable choice. If the best they can come up with is taking their ball and going home, I think we're in a pretty good position. Like she is highly qualified. The American Bar Association has said so. All of her fellow Supreme Court clerks have said so. The law faculty unanimously at Notre Dame, of people from all political stripes, have said so. That she is a thoughtful and qualified person. And so it's disappointing that they won't even meet with this individual, with Judge Barrett, who's going to be a justice on the Supreme Court. I think she deserves the respect of senators, but that's their choice. And if, as I said, if the best they can come up with is taking their ball and going home, that means President Trump has made an excellent choice.
No, well, then we won't be able to find out. Amy Klobuchar won't get to ask her like if she enjoys having a drink after work sometimes, and what does she drink, and how much does she drink, and those sort of probing questions.
Are you friends with Squeaky?
Miss that, and we'll miss Sheldon Whitehouse calling her a human trafficker too. I hope they decide to show up for the hearing and show everybody who they are. We'll see. Brian Morgenstern, Special Assistant to the President, Deputy